Israel was divided into the southern kingdom of Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel. In the kingdom of Israel, great prophets such as Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel appeared, prophesying that the nation would perish if it did not follow the Lord. Meanwhile, in the southern kingdom of Judah, notable prophets like Elijah and Elisha arose. Though they did not leave behind prophetic writings, their deeds are recorded in the books of Kings. Elijah, in particular, is frequently mentioned during the time of Jesus. Let us now explore who Elijah was and what made him significant. Elijah first appears during the reign of Ahab, king of Israel. During this time, King Ahab of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah maintained a friendly relationship. Elijah conveyed the word of God to King Ahab, declaring that there would be no rain for the next 3 years.
Elijah was commanded by God to hide on the east side of the Jordan. There, as the Lord had said, ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and again in the evening. Elijah survived by drinking water from the Jordan. However, after some time, the Jordan River dried up due to the famine. When the Jordan River dried up, the word of the Lord came to Elijah, instructing him to go to Zarephath in Sidon. There, he was told, a widow would provide for him. When Elijah arrived, he met the widow and asked her, "Please bring me some water to drink." He then added, "And please bring me a piece of bread." The widow replied, "As surely as the Lord your God lives, I have no bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and prepare a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and then die." Elijah said to her, "Do not be afraid. Go and do as you have said. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me and bring it to me. Then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land." The widow obeyed Elijah, and they ate for many days. As the Lord had said through Elijah, the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry. Sometime later, the widow's son became ill, and his condition worsened until he stopped breathing. She said to Elijah, "What do you have against me, man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son?" Elijah replied, "Give me your son." He took the boy from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. Then Elijah cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, have you brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with, by causing her son to die?" He stretched himself out on the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him." The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elijah carried the boy down from the upper room into the house, and gave him to his mother, saying, "Look, your son is alive." When Elijah met Ahab, Ahab said, "You are the man who brings trouble to this nation and deceives the people." Elijah replied, "It is you who have brought trouble to this nation by driving out all the prophets of the Lord, and leaving me alone as his prophet in this land. Meanwhile, there are 450 prophets of Baal remaining." Elijah proposed, "Let us choose 2 bulls and prepare them as offerings on separate altars. Then we will each call upon our God." He added, "Stack wood on the altar, but do not light the fire. The God who answers by sending fire will be the true God." Ahab agreed, and he gathered the prophets of Baal, who prepared their altar and stacked the wood. Elijah said, "Call upon the name of your God, since you are many. But remember, do not light the fire." From morning until noon, the prophets of Baal called upon their God, saying, "Answer us," while dancing around the altar. At noon, Elijah mocked them, saying, "Shout louder. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." The prophets of Baal cried out even louder, following their custom by slashing themselves with swords and spears until their blood flowed. Yet there was no response. Elijah then stepped forward and repaired the altar of the Lord. He dug a trench around the altar, ordered water to be poured over the wood and offering, and repeated this 3 times until everything was soaked, and the trench was filled with water. In the evening, Elijah prayed, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Let it be known today that you are God in Israel, that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your command." Immediately, the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, the soil, and even the water in the trench. Seeing this, the people declared, "The Lord, He is God." Elijah was walking with his disciple Elisha. Elijah already understood that he would soon be taken up to heaven. He asked Elisha, "What do you wish for when I am taken up to heaven?" Elisha replied, "I want a double portion of your spirit." Elijah said, "You have asked for a difficult thing. However, if you see me as I am taken up to heaven, your wish will be granted." As they were still talking, a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared, separating the two of them. And Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha watched intently and was able to clearly see this moment.
Elijah was a prophet who demonstrated the most powerful acts of God across the kingdoms of Judah and Israel. Unlike prophets such as Isaiah or Ezekiel, who conveyed God's words to the people and compiled them into written books, Elijah's role was unique. The book of Malachi contains a prophecy that Elijah will be sent in the last days. This led people in the time of Jesus to believe that Elijah would reappear. Since Elijah did not die but was taken up to heaven, it was widely believed that he would return alongside the arrival of the Messiah.
When John the Baptist appeared during the time of Jesus, many speculated that he might be Elijah. However, when John was imprisoned, he sent his disciples to ask Jesus, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?" According to Jesus, John the Baptist was the greatest among those born of women. Many believed that the prophet Elijah mentioned in the book of Malachi would be sent in the end times. John himself understood his role as the voice crying out in the wilderness, and sought to know if Jesus was the Messiah. Jesus indicated that while John the Baptist might not be Elijah in person, if people were willing to accept it, John fulfilled the role of Elijah as prophesied in Malachi. Peter confessed in his letters that he witnessed Jesus' transformation on the mountaintop. According to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus appeared in dazzling white garments and was seen conversing with Moses and Elijah. This event was witnessed by Peter, John, and James, although Jesus instructed them to keep it a secret at the time. After Jesus' resurrection, Peter revealed this event as a truth. It is unclear how they recognized Moses and Elijah, but the appearance of the lawgiver and the representative of the prophets holds significant meaning. If John the Baptist was accepted as Elijah, the question arises about who the Elijah on the mountaintop truly was. It might suggest that John the Baptist fulfilled Elijah's role symbolically. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is recorded as crying out on the cross, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some bystanders misheard Eli as a call for Elijah, saying, "This man is calling Elijah." In the Gospel of Mark, the phrase is rendered as, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," indicating that Jesus spoke in Aramaic. Either way, those surrounding the cross misunderstood the words, and thought Jesus was summoning Elijah because of the similar sound. However, both Gospels clarify that Jesus was quoting Psalm chapter 22, not calling out for Elijah.
The kingdom of Israel lacked a temple and continued to worship the golden calves established by Jeroboam. Yet even in such a nation, there were true prophets who discerned God's voice, with Elijah and Elisha standing out as prophets who exhibited extraordinary divine power. Elijah is famously known for being taken up to heaven without dying, similar to Enoch in the book of Genesis. The prophecy in Malachi about Elijah's return led many to speculate about his reappearance during the time of Jesus. In contrast, the kingdom of Judah had prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, who left behind major prophetic writings. The presence of a powerful prophet like Elijah in the kingdom of Israel, which lacked the Ark of the Covenant, demonstrates that God never abandoned Israel. Eventually, the kingdom of Israel was destroyed by Assyria, leaving only the remnants known as Samaritans during Jesus' time. Despite this, Jesus traveled through Samaria, performing miracles and affirming their need for salvation. Jesus treated the Samaritans as part of the Jewish people, distinct from Gentiles. Both Jeremiah and Jesus viewed Israel as God's people and never forsook them. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to the channel.